Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we're bringing you a special edition of things that definitely don't add up, because Tess Holliday did not grow up fat, definitely didn't found the body positivity movement, and certainly cannot be called a supermodel. Despite the fact that all of those things I just said are true, Tess went on a TEDx stage and very confidently told the audience the opposite. We're going to go ahead and take a deeper dive into that tonight. I hope you'll stay tuned for more details. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sam and I make weekly videos dissecting internet nonsense just like that. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. You know what you're in for this week. It's another great video. If you are new here and this is the first time you are seeing my face, welcome. I hope that if you like today's video, or just videos in general where people dissect internet nonsense, that you'll go ahead and join our community by hitting that subscribe button. And I totally mean that, by the way. The best #1 way that you can support this channel is simply by interacting, whether that's subscribing, liking, or even commenting for the algorithm. Without you, this video doesn't get pushed to a wider audience and this channel won't grow. So thank you so much for being here with me week after week. Your support means the most to me. Today, I want to talk to all of you about Tess Holliday's recent TED Talk, but also the way she feels the need to continuously try to rewrite history. And I mean her own history, but also history in general, because it's quite fascinating. Now, it's been a while since we talked about Tess on this channel in a full-length video, so just in case you don't know who Tess is, let me go ahead and give you a brief introduction. Tess is a plus-size model and influencer who built her career and brand around her body, going as far as to deem herself fat, healthy, and 300 pounds. She calls herself a supermodel, has gone viral for hashtags like F Your Beauty Standards, and has sparked plenty of controversy over the years by scamming her fans and just generally acting like a mean girl when her followers have dared to think for themselves. At the beginning of this year, Tess gave a TEDx speech in Switzerland. Now, I have been waiting oh so patiently, scrolling those TEDx YouTube channels, waiting for this entire speech to be published, because they always do that. It's just a matter of time. Well, it's been published, and what I found when I watched it was that Tess was going to go ahead and give her life story, assert some new bold claims, and remind everyone once again that the world revolves around her. So today, I want to talk about Tess's speech. I want to talk about the egregious self-branding. I want to talk about the contradictions in her stories, and I also want to talk about the fascinating need for her to rewrite her own history. Ooh, it's gonna be a fun one today. Before we get too far into the video though, I do want to stop and just clarify the difference between a TED Talk and a TEDx talk, okay? A TED Talk is like being invited to the Oscars. It's exclusive, expensive, and often filled with speakers offering world-changing ideas and perspectives. These events cost thousands of dollars to attend, and speakers are carefully chosen for their global impact. TEDx events, on the other hand, can pretty much be run by anyone who has a microphone, a projector, and a stage. Think of them as being more like your local community center's talent show. The vibe is very different, and the quality can range from truly inspiring speeches to listening to 20 minutes of someone telling you a story about their middle school pageant.
Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps.
Which is precisely what we're about to do, because Tess's speech, it was really something. And because I am feeling particularly petty on this day, I want to stop immediately at the introduction screen that they play on this video for Tess. Because when you're looking at this slide, what you see is that she has deemed herself a supermodel. And this one really made me laugh, because to be deemed a supermodel one has to achieve a certain level of status within modeling where they reach a celebrity status, where they have international recognition, where they can demand astronomical fees for their continued work once they have chosen to retire. Seeing as Tess has been crying online lately about not being able to get modeling gigs,
one of the most asked questions I get is, are you still modeling? And I just wanted to answer that really quickly. I am not really still modeling because I have been pushed out of the space. And it's probably because of my size. It's probably because of my age, or because I have a loud mouth and I speak about things that we should all give a shit about. But regardless, no, I don't really model anymore.
and also admitting that people don't know who she is.
This is in no way like directing hate to this person, but this has been making me giggle for like quite some time, and I have to make a video about it. I was scrolling through TikTok and I saw like this original, post was this girl saying like she was like mortified because she asked for a photo with Olivia Rodrigo and Olivia Rodrigo was no, and she was embarrassed. And I commented just being like, oh my God, that's like one of my favorite parts about my job. Like taking photos with people, and the amount of people that are like, who are you? Who are you? Like, they're like, you're not famous like Olivia Rodrigo, pick me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be a pick me. Ooh, gross if I was.
So I'm going to go ahead and call it. She gave herself the title of supermodel, which means that it means nothing. You're going to see as we go through this speech that that is something Tess really loves to do, and the internet has given her the platform to do just that. Before we also relook at this slide and how she's called herself a body positivity and inclusivity pioneer, we're going to pause. It's going to become important in just a little bit because we need to let Tess tell us her origin story.
Growing up in small town Mississippi, I was a little girl with big dreams, a love for sparkle, and an imagination that took me far beyond my small hometown. Even as a child, I was told that my body was wrong, that I took up too much space, that I didn't fit the mold. Beauty, as I saw it around me, was something defined that I would never see in the mirror. And so began a lesson society teaches many of us, that in order to fit in, we must shrink ourselves.
Tess isn't just setting the stage for her speech, she is actively telling a story. And what she's doing is lifting her audience out of their seats in Switzerland and dropping them straight into rural, backwoods Mississippi, where she is a misunderstood, poor, short little fat girl. There's struggle, there's longing, there's sparkle. It's an attempt to make her struggles feel universal so that she can draw her audience in and really tug at their emotions. And she's going to continue this by choosing one singular story where she can do a deeper dive to make her experience universal.
Picture this, 6th grade, I'm signing up for my first beauty pageant. I was so excited, but truthfully, I had no idea what I was up against. I looked around at my other classmates, and in their eyes, I saw it. I was the fat girl, the one they dared not to stand too close to. Being friends with me was a gamble. Unable to find a dress within my size and budget, my grandmother hired someone from church to give me my Cinderella moment. The other contestants shared their interests, cheerleading, gymnastics, and then there was me. I like hanging out with my family, swimming, and collecting Tweety Bird. Silence. The crowd, the judges, no one knew what to do with me. I didn't place.
And when you watch this, it does really pull at your heartstrings. You can picture being the little girl standing on stage, feeling so disappointed. Tess knows exactly what she's doing. She's setting up her own personal discomfort as a child as cultural oppression. She is setting herself up as both the victim and the visionary. But there's one glaring issue with Tess's very heartfelt story. She didn't grow up fat. Yeah, I think Tess forgot in this moment on this stage as she was trying to suck this audience in that she didn't grow up fat. And the way that we know that is because Tess has been on the internet now for nearly 2 decades. And when you're on the internet for that long, you tend to share bits and pieces of your life. Tess has done just that, and over the years, she has posted multiple photos of herself as a child at different ages, at different stages, and one thing seems to be missing from all of these photos. What do you see missing from those photos? Can you say it with me here? It's the fat. There's no fat in these childhood photos. In fact, in one caption that she actually wrote in 2024, she had a childhood photo just like this, and she stated she felt too fat. Not that she was too fat, that she felt too fat. Isn't that like a cardinal sin in fat acceptance these days? Like, I'm pretty sure we hear them say a lot that you cannot feel fat.
Hey, so this is a gentle reminder that fat is not a feeling. You can't feel fat.
And yet, here is this woman claiming to be a pioneer in this movement, a founder, if you will, sharing her heartfelt story of being the misunderstood fat little girl in rural Mississippi, with no facts to back that up. Which brings me right into the beauty pageant story, because she's used this setup as being the fat, outcast, misunderstood girl into why the beauty pageant was such a travesty for her. There's a lot to unpack here. If you've been around this channel for a while, you know critical thinking, one of my favorite things ever. So we're going to start with the most obvious point first, okay? And that is that if you're actively listening to Tess as she's talking, you hear her say the exact reason why she did not place in that first beauty pageant, okay? She says, "I was excited, but I didn't know what to expect." She was shocked to hear her peers saying things for their hobbies like cheerleading or dancing. She went up on stage and she implies she was unprepared because her response was, "I like spending time with my family, swimming, and collecting Tweety Bird." This is clearly what caused Tess to not place. It was her first time she was unprepared. But not for Tess. Rather than seeing this for what it is, she decided she was going to craft a narrative from this and make this story a symbol about the way the world rejects fat people. Now again, that was the obvious, okay? But here's the not so obvious. And again, if you don't know that Tess didn't grow up fat, you may not know this either. So her story is quite dramatic. It's meant to pull at the heartstrings. She wants people to relive their embarrassing moments as a child. We have all had them. And Tess is bearing her soul on stage. She had to have a dress specially made to give her that moment because they couldn't find one in her size. Then she talks about the embarrassment of standing on stage and having adults either just stare at her or laugh at her in inappropriate ways, making her feel uncomfortable and embarrassed about her fat body. And by now we know Tess wasn't actually fat as a child, so there's that. But this isn't always the way that Tess has told this beauty pageant story. In fact, The Independent reported on an Instagram post Tess made in 2018 where she shared this pageant story. But at that point in time, she told her audience in her caption she wanted to fit in with the other girls who were, quote, showing more skin and were more dolled up. She then carried on to say that the dress she wore was the only one her mother could find in town in her size, and she believed she was being ridiculed by the audience as she took the stage. See, this version of the story is different. Still dramatic, but slightly less dramatic and slightly less embarrassing because her mother was able to buy a dress. But you have to think, if you're in small town, rural Mississippi, it's gonna be different than being in a city center where you might find more dresses in your size. Then there's the bit about the audience. Did they actually laugh inappropriately at her or stare at her silently when they shouldn't have? Or did she feel ridiculed by the audience? I think it's valid to feel like an outcast if you're in a situation where you're new to the space, but also Tess does have some trauma in her history and in her story. She has reported growing up poor in rural Mississippi, living in a trailer behind her grandmother's house, which was the result of her mother being part of a violent relationship. Of course, those things are going to make someone feel like maybe they don't fit in. But here's my genuine question. Why is she taking all of the actual trauma that she's had and trying to repurpose it into one package that is solely about her body size? Why is every little bit of alienation, pain, and embarrassment she felt being tied into her being this fat, misunderstood little girl when that was not her reality? It's like she's rewriting her past to fit the brand she's built as an adult. But the problem is when you build your brand on personal storytelling and then you continue to change the story, people are going to catch you. And when you lie about the little things, it makes it hard for people to believe you when you start to talk about big things. Now let's go ahead and switch gears here because I want to talk about the way that she lists herself as a pioneer.
Because belonging isn't something society decides for us. We can fight to decide that for ourselves. It took a long time, but as I grew up, I stopped asking why I couldn't fit into spaces I was told I didn't belong. Instead, I created my own space, my own path, and my own movement. 10 years ago, I founded F Your Beauty Standards, and it became a global call for change that was more than a hashtag. It was a movement for anyone who had ever felt invisible. I wasn't just shouting into the void anymore about self-acceptance. I had created a space where people like me could hear thousands of voices that relate to them and support them. People began reclaiming their right to be seen and heard, sharing images of their bodies, their beauty, and their power. Every post, every story was a testament that beauty isn't limited to a single standard.
Once again, I hope you are well stretched because we have a lot of unpacking to do, okay? I want to start by flashing back to that intro slide that you saw at the start of this entire speech, okay? Because on that slide is where we first see her listed as a body positivity and inclusivity pioneer. Now imagine being a Swiss person in the audience who just read that on her introductory slide, maybe doesn't have a full understanding of who Tess Holliday is or what fat acceptance even is. And now you've just heard this story where she started a movement, a global movement, with a hashtag that became more than a hashtag. Does it not sound like Tess is implying here that she started body positivity and fat acceptance with her F Your Beauty Standards hashtag? Because that's how it sounded to me, and I understand these things, right? I've been in this space for a long time, and I was a long-time follower of Tess, which is why I know her stories aren't true, okay? And I paused at the part where she said, I just stopped asking why I couldn't be in those spaces, and I made my way into them. I created my own space. Because on the surface, it seems like she's just trailblazing, right? She's doing what all trailblazers do. The problem is when you really listen, what she's saying is, I had no problem bulldozing over people to put myself at the center of these spaces. Because the fat acceptance and body positivity movements have been around for decades. We know, for at least the fat acceptance movement, that it has kind of interesting origins, which are up for debate. But if we went by Tess's ilk and their group think, they say they were started by black and brown, sometimes disabled, and sometimes queer women.
The original body positivity movement actually started as the fat rights movement, which came about in the 60s and was headed by, guess, queer fat black women.
This is factually untrue. The body positivity movement was created in the 1960s by a group of fat black women.
So is Tess committing yet another cardinal sin against this movement she claims to be a founder and a pioneer of? Because by doing that, what she's doing is erasing all of the people who came before her and actually laid the groundwork for her to be able to thrive in this space. And finally, because I cannot leave this out, I just want to talk one more time about the F Your Beauty Standards hashtag, because Tess clings to this like it is a life raft. It's the last thing she has to remain relevant as the internet moves forward and away from her. The thing about her clinging to this hashtag, though, is that it is the thing that made her. So I kind of get it. It's the first thing that went viral. It's the first thing that allowed her to truly capitalize off of fat activism and it growing on the internet. But it also built her a platform where she could then use that same hashtag to scam her audience. That's right, it's one of Tess's most well-known scandals, and it is tied directly to the hashtag F Your Beauty Standards. What she did is she built a platform and then decided, I'm gonna sell t-shirts with this saying on them to my audience of followers, and I'm gonna tell them that I'm gonna donate the proceeds to charity. What actually ended up happening is that hundreds of people did not receive their orders, and Tess did an interview with Refinery29 where she said, the project was started with pure intentions. So did it not end with pure intentions? She also admitted to them that she wasn't a businesswoman and she couldn't keep up with the demand, and then she blamed the post office for losing one big batch of orders, as well as blaming her customers because the post office would say the order was received, but customers were stating that they hadn't received them. Then she said, and this is the best part, I wanted to be inclusive of everyone, so I tried to make sure that I had a manufacturer who could make a size small to a size 4X with no difference in quality, and it made my costs too high. She said because of this, it ate all of her profits, caused her to spend money out of pocket, and she wasn't able to actually make any donations to charity at all. And you guys, when I read this, I just had to take a pause because I've just read this story. I've just listened to her talk about going into her first beauty pageant unprepared. And I'm realizing this is Tess's entire MO. She just steps into these things with a fantasy of the way she thinks it's going to go. She doesn't do any work to plan or prepare, or she doesn't do any research about the best way to do the thing. She just does it. And then when reality doesn't match her fantasy, rather than self-reflecting or apologizing, it's never her fault. It's someone else's fault. It's the world's fault because the world is out to get her. You see, I think Tess did learn something at the end of that beauty pageant. I just don't think that it's the lesson she's claiming she learned. I think that day she learned if she wanted the attention and the success and the fame that she so craved, she needed to become a more compelling character. She needed a story that felt universal and could draw people in, and I think she's been working on crafting that narrative since that day. And in some ways, her timing was perfect because the internet gave her that platform. It gave her the ultimate opportunity to take all the complicated, messy, traumatic parts of her childhood and to repackage them nicely into one story about her body which could then latch easily onto an online movement that was quickly gaining traction. It became the perfect vehicle for her to gain the fame and success that she had been looking for the entire time. And just before she closes out her speech, she pulls this classic move by turning it back on the audience.
Let's do this. Close your eyes. Take a breath. And think about the time that you last judged someone for how they show up in the world, about their clothes, their education, their appearance. When was the last time that you judged someone for being too much? Was it today? Was it yesterday? Was it this evening when you sat down to listen to my speech? Because if it was recently, and let's be honest, it was for many of us, then we still have work to do. But it's wonderful work that will bring us closer together as a community. It's the work of reminding ourselves that we are all worthy. We can all build a future where every body, every ability, and every individual can exist. And no one, not strangers, online trolls, or an entire industry can take that away from us.
It's a clever tactic because now those audience members, if they're sitting there thinking, what was the point of this speech? There wasn't really a universal sort of argument. And we can see, based on her own words, actually why she lost the beauty pageant. They're not allowed to think those things now because that makes them a bad person. Because now they're judging her and she's saying that they shouldn't do that. It's not fair and it's not honest for her to do that, but I truly believe it's one of Tess's favorite tactics because Tess doesn't enjoy the truth, as we've seen. She can't handle the fact that not every critique is judgment and not every question is hateful. And people could see in that speech, despite her saying over and over and over again that she had been excluded and rejected and outcast, even though she's saying those words, within the same exact speech, she bragged repeatedly about landing brand deals, being on the cover of magazines, being on billboards, and getting herself into boardrooms. It's not exactly giving proof of society rejecting her, is it? Tess calls this her delusion.
Funny thing, when people ask me, how did you become successful? How did your life change in the way that it did? I nearly always say, delusion. And people laugh, like some of you. I know you're laughing, because it was funny, right?
Then she calls it defiance.
My body is an act of defiance.
But we can see clear as day, it's not delusion, it's not defiance, it's not an act of resistance, it's a performance. And it's a performance that Tess must maintain so that she can continue to capitalize off of her audience, who she lies to at every turn. Alright, that is all I have for you all today, and at this point, I am so genuinely curious to know what you all think about this, because I didn't realize that it was going to get this messy. So I need to know what you think. Did you see Tess's TED Talk in the wilds? Did you hear her saying the details of why she lost that beauty pageant? Did you flag that right away? What do you think about deep diving a little further to see that actually Tess's childhood isn't what she's telling us it was? What do you think about her admitting that she felt fat as a child rather than being fat as a child? What do you think about her elbowing her way into these movements and naming herself a pioneer, a supermodel, an act of resistance? Is she any of those things? You will have to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, because Like I said, this is messy, and I am genuinely curious to know what you think about it. And for all my introvert friends out there who may not feel comfortable leaving your opinions in an internet comment section, I see you. Go ahead and leave me a rain emoji this week, partially because low-key I'm hoping we're doing a little rain dance so I don't have to keep watering my flowers in this 100-degree weather, but also because we're snarky. We're going to do some rain emojis because we are always going to be here on this channel to rain all over Tess Holliday's Parade of Lies. As always, thank you all so much for being here with me this week. I will see you in the next one. Bye!